The Braves brought back two friends, and we are going to live react to any trade deadline trades that the Braves made after 6 p.m., if there are any. How's it going, Cole?
I'm good. I'm actually at the Battery, Atlanta right now. I am less than a mile away from where the magic is happening or not happening,
You
but we
didn't
will
sneak
find
in
out
there and
probably in the next 10 minutes.
make the trade
Well,
for
I made a yeah. So I created a a very realistic looking credential, you know. But I misspelled my name on it, and they're like, no, no more dealers.
it's
You
like
can't come here.
National Treasure, but you misspell the credential or you get the color wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Everything else was right. They're like, you know what? You would have had us. You would be in that front office right now if you didn't spell your own name wrong. So, yeah, they kicked me out. I'm probably facing like I just had to get bailed out of um, uh, jail too for trespassing. Probably a 5 to 10 year sentence, but you know it was worth
This
it
might be the
just for the
last
experience.
podcast we ever record.
Yeah.
So
So hopefully they make it count.
it has been a crazy 2 weeks since we last recorded. The Braves have been really bad for the most part, and they definitely needed to make some trades, plural. They've made a singular trade so far. Offense was abysmal for, I mean, it's been really bad for the past couple of months, but the past 2 weeks have been exceptionally bad. Austin Riley and Marcell Ozuna pretty much have been the only guys who could hit. Matt Olson finally caught out of a slump after not getting a single hit for, I think, the first 5 games out of the All-Star break. Um, and last night around 11:50, as I was about to go to bed, Alex Anthopoulos said, You're going to stay up for a little more." And he made a trade to bring not back not just one, but two 2021 postseason heroes. Uh, how are you feeling about Luke Jackson and Jorge Soler?
Uh, Definite mix of emotions. There is one side of me who, feels nostalgia from 2021, that same sort of excitement, just knowing everything that happened since we made that trade to get Jorge Soler, the last, or not last year, I keep saying last year, the 2021 trade deadline. Uh, it, just in the vacuum of the 2024 season, I like it a lot. Our offense is sorely needing the lightning rod. We didn't really give up too much. Just for those at home who don't know, we sent really low level. I mean, like single A prospect. Like not even he's not even like in our top 25. I don't think he wasn't really on my radar necessarily. And we sent Tyler Matzik to get them. The part that confuses me though, I'm gonna move pants a little loud. The part that confuses me though is that Jorge Soler is signed for the next 2 years. Now, did we? I I don't know if I was like hallucinating this or not, but were we talking about there being a mutual uh, buyout
I
for the
initially
Solar
thought
contract?
that Soler had buyouts or options or something. And then I
Because if
realized last night that I
player,
was thinking about his Marlins contract, which he did opt out of
yeah,
and then went to
yeah,
San Francisco. Or so he does have 2 more years after this one. He has not played outfield at all. The plan is to play him in right field and maybe left field. Um, I would say he is slightly better defensively than Ozuna. He has a better arm, and I think the ranges are comparable. But he has
yeah.
not played outfield at all. Ozuna is at the end of his contract this year, but he does have a what is crazy to say now, but a team friendly team option for 2025. Um, and it's really interesting. I really am excited about Soler for the rest of the season. But then as soon as the playoffs are over, as soon as free agent frenzy starts, it gets really confusing because I don't know where Ozuna and Soler piece together. They've never played together on the Braves, which is always fun to think about.
You said you don't know where they piece together, but the fact of the matter is that you don't. There's just once. Acuna's back, and I mean, we were talking about this offline yesterday. He's going to need the DH some. It's going to be hard enough already with just Ozuna on the roster. You film the store. Oh man, bringing a lot of. What if that's how I actually um I just they're the team store. I just saw them putting new merch in there. I see like a crochet jersey. I'm like, that would be
He
really
has not
funny.
been
Anyway,
traded yet as of 6:08, so I don't know.
yeah, we'll see. I think I'd give it maybe like another 30 minutes, but I think with each passing minute, the less likely it becomes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I that's the part that bothers me is that you're sacrificing some long term outlook. You're kind of putting the roster in a bind and making it less flexible to try to salvage a year that has been just, and I know we're singing the same tune in 2021, but call me crazy here, but I feel like this point in 2021, that team had a better outlook than this team does. Maybe I'm just not really optimistic, kind of a pessimist. Also, too, I don't know if you look at the payroll, but I mean, we're taking Soler's like entire contract.
Hmm.
There's no paying down it. We're let's get a little steep in the luxury tax household. I don't know if you can go on Sports Track right now and see if that information's been updated, but which is good. I mean, it's good to know that the team is willing to win, but at the same time, you know, just less roster flexibility, which just concerns me because I feel like one of our team's strengths has been having a flexible roster.
The adjusted payroll total as of right now on Sport Track is a Spot Track is 236,619,551. We have the I think the fifth or sixth highest payroll in baseball.
Wow. I mean, I love that just as a kind of a promise to the fans, like, hey, we are going to spend to make this team better. But for this year, I'm happy, and maybe just ask questions later. We'll see. We also talked about the possibility of a Marcell Ozuna trade. He exercises his option, and we decide we want to sell on him high. There's plenty of teams I feel like would, give not a lot for a DH, but hey, if he comes, top five MVP this year, there's some teams that would make that trade.
I do wonder what it is because I'm almost certain Alex Anthopoulos has already talked to Ozuna about this, but for the last 4 months, Ozuna has carried this offense almost
Yeah,
single-handedly. Um, Ozuna knows what Soler means. He sees Soler as 2 guaranteed years out. He knows that both of them are DH types. And as much as Ozuna would love to get in a game and play first base, I mean, that's not going to happen unless Matt Olson finally
no,
taps out.
no.
Um,
Yeah.
so I wondered
Can
the
we?
conversation that Alex Anthopoulos and Ozuna have had because they've certainly talked about the future of Ozuna on the Braves.
Yeah. I mean, obviously this has all happened in the last 24 hours, and you would think that the front office they're in Atlanta right now, like right here. So I don't think Alex Anthopoulos and Marcelo Ozuna are hopping on a video call. I could be wrong, but that is, I definitely feel like there could be some confusion there. Marcelo Ozuna is a smart guy. He put pieces together, and he's like, hey, this doesn't really add up. You just traded for a DH who signed the next 2 seasons. But um, with Luke Jackson, I know you had some issues with it. can we before we move on to Luke Jackson, can we just like take a minute to just appreciate the commitment to the bit, trying to recreate 2021? So, you know, you look at the four outfielders we brought in that year after Acun's injury: Jock Peterson, Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler, Adam Duvall. We get Adam Duvall beginning of the season, sort of as a platoon guy. Get Kelenic. Okay, you know what? It's cool. He's his son loves blooper, makes sense. And then he goes down. Nationals release Eddie Rosario. Oh, we can get him for free. Makes sense. Bring him back Jorge Soler. it's uh, it it kind of reminds me of like the guy. I think I tweeted this yesterday and didn't get much traction, but I want to elaborate on it here. When Kevin Smith made the first Clerks movie, it was it was a hit, and he made it. It kind of was like came out of nowhere, independent film, was really well received, and then he basically tried to remake Clerks three other times, either through sweet sequels or movies that were basically Clerks, but not really. Um, and they just were not as well received. There's like kind of diminishing returns when it comes to trying the exact same thing out again. And something about that concerns me. It just makes, not that, nothing will take away 2021, but it makes it feel like, okay, it just kind of seems like you've run out of ideas.
It is funny because I think I messaged you about this. Alex Anthopoulos is like cold and relentless and doesn't care about like nostalgia at all when it comes to long-term contracts. Like Freddie Freeman was like, "Give me a sixth year," and Anthopoulos said, "Nope, can't do that," and he let Freddie walk, face of a franchise. But when it comes to short-term deals, that man is loves nostalgia. He brings Jesse Chavez back every chance he gets. Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall, Jorge Soler. He's been trying to get Soler back for basically the entire time. Um, and yeah, as long as it's not 5 years and $150 million, Alex Anthopoulos will go all in on nostalgia. Um, I think it is funny that Soler is the best hitter of the bunch, and he is now just getting his reunion. Uh, I always thought him and Jock were the most
Important.
consequential, not
Yeah.
necessarily the best, but consequential to the run. And they were the
Yeah.
two who didn't get brought back, whereas, Eddie had that crazy NLCS and wasn't that important to the division run. And Duvall was kind of, oh, you can kind of play center field, just go there and do your thing. Um,
Yeah. No, you're definitely right. The two like real catalysts, maybe not necessarily the most valuable when you put them on paper, but definitely I would say like the two symbols of winning that year. Because I mean Eddie Rosario, I mean he was literally hurt until I think like the last 2 weeks of the season in 2021 as well, and people tend to forget that. Um, I guess we should talk about. I mean, just before we move on, I want to keep this short and sweet. My battery's running low too.
mhm.
Anything, nothing else. I think this we can kind of put a no crochet.
Apparently, according to David O'Brien, and I don't necessarily think he is always on, but he said that the Braves didn't make any last minute trades today.
Okay.
But now that he said that, I fully expect the JK. We
Yeah.
actually got
Yeah.
this big deal done.
Yeah.
I am surprised the Braves didn't add an infielder. Uh, I really wanted Nacho to come up and bang, but he is not.
I was hoping that, and when I saw that the Royals acquired him, I was hoping he would be part of the potential crochet deal. I kind of like Paul DeYoung that role. Shortstop
Yeah.
who really should not be playing shortstop anymore. And then he come in as second baseman. And then once Ozzy came back, he could be like more of a super utility role, kind of fill a little bit of, try to get Guillorme, Fletcher, Luke Williams for.
We should probably talk about Matzik. So Matzik is one of the guys who was traded. And it's really bittersweet. I know he was kind of cooked for a while. I had
Yeah,
zero expectations for him going forward. But if he could have just stayed on the 60-day IL until eternity, I would have been really
yeah,
happy with that. I love Tyler Matzik. I think aside just from that performance in the NLCS where he came in with runners on second and third, a two-run game uh, against the Dodgers and struck out the side. I think having him on the team, his legacy as a Brave goes just beyond that. You know, you have the perseverance backstory where he had been out of Major League Baseball for 5 years before he came back to the Braves. In 2020, he wasn't even a non-roster invite. The expectations for Matzik were so low, and he probably only made the team because it was a 30-man roster, and he was one of the best relievers on that 2020 squad. Uh, I I'm really gonna miss Matzik. I'm kind of sad that he's gone. I hate that Luke Jackson's coming back over and now Matzik's gone. I think it would have been a nice reunion, but I don't know. Anything you have to say more?
as someone who was there at the stadium watching him pitch, it just that was the greatest moment I've ever seen, like in my life, at a game. I've never been part of a more electric crowd, and I mean, you really just to kind of put everyone. I know we all experienced it together, but to put everyone back in that situation, to Game Six, the year before. I know the COVID NLCS, but the year before, we blew a 3-1 series lead, and it's Game Six. We have a 3-2 lead, 4-2. Luke Jackson comes on and proceeds to uh, give up runner on first. I forgot what single or walk, and then a double, probably to Chris Taylor because Chris Taylor was always in the center of everything that I hate. Um, 1 second, I'm just gonna finish this rant real quick. Probably on the highway, and yeah, it looked pretty dire. It was, everybody. I think the general feeling in the stadium was like, this is how it happens. This is how the Dodgers come back. They could possibly have Max Scherzer for Game 7. This was our best shot, and Tyler Matzik comes in against three righties, might I add. I mean, it was a ballsy move by Snit to put him in. I can't remember off the top of my head like what our other options were at that time, but for him to come and strike out two future Hall of Famers and Steven Souza Jr., absolutely insane. And it's funny too because you don't really remember pitching performances from playoffs. You really don't. You think of more recent examples, Bryce Harper's. Uh, well, a fly just flew in my mouth. That was pretty gross. Um, yeah, let me spit real quick. You think of okay. You think of Bryce Harper's home run. You think of obviously the David Freese, but clutch pitching, I feel is like a 60-40 split. But Tyler Matzik came in and delivered the most memorable pitching performance of the last 20 years. So, he's always going to be remembered for that. He's always going to be a legend. Will the Braves retire his number? Probably not. But will he be one of the guys who get the standing ovation when the 25-year anniversary of the 2021 World Series team comes to truth? Yeah, definitely. He's going to be one of those guys front and center. So he's always going to be remembered for that. And it's unfortunate that it seemed like it took every bit of him to be able to put up that performance. But he's always going to be just a legend in Braves country.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Sorry,
gonna miss Matzik.
sorry that a fly flew in my mouth during that. By the way, that was still kind of tasting it too. It had like a bit of a minty taste to
Ugh.
it, which is kind of freaking me out. Not gonna lie.
Um, yeah, so Luke Jackson is the last bit I think we need to talk about. Um, my mic keeps turning itself up. It's really annoying. Um, Luke Jackson has not been good this year, as much as I hate to look at his stat line, because I also love Luke Jackson, but he has like a 5.4 ERA. Giants fans were rejoicing when they saw that he had been traded. And the Braves bullpen has been really good this year. Um, like really, really good. And one issue of the Braves bullpen is that they are very good and none of the players have options. They had to send down Dylan Lee for like 2 games to get a starter up in Arizona, and he has like a 2.20 ERA. And he's like the guy that they put in when it's 8-2 when they're losing. I don't really know where Luke Jackson fits in on the squad unless it's like they make him the long reliever, but I don't even know the last time he pitched multiple innings.
Yeah, I mean, adding bullpen depth is always important. Even think about yesterday's game. We had Darius Vines come in, especially this part of the season. Another thing to remember too is we have a lot of makeup games still. At least from what I can tell, we have one against the Reds. I think we have one against the Phillies, but I could be wrong. Um, so it's always nice to have relief depth, but it definitely feels like just in terms of like the actual roster, there's not really a role for him right now. I don't think he's going to come in as a long reliever either. We don't even really have technically a defined long reliever, sort of like Jesse Chavez. Hey, you haven't pitched in 4 days, and we have a 5-run lead. You want to come in here? But you always hope that with somebody like Luke Jackson of the Braves, he's had the most success in his career by far with this team. So there's the hope that he can come here and he and Cranny, he and Perez can just figure it out. And even if he's not, what he was during his peak, he's still a valuable arm to have and a potential weapon come October.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I I know the Braves have had like Dylan Lee, Grant Holmes, who pitched so well yesterday, and then the bullpen didn't. Um, and Jesse Chavez go, 2 or 3 innings. But yeah, the whole rotation's kind of in a limbo too. Ronaldo Lopez looked he left Sunday's game and then it looked like oh no, he's gonna have Tommy John surgery. And then Snit was like, oh, he actually might start his next spot in the rotation. So and Max Fried is currently injured. We don't know how long for. The Braves, I guess, felt comfortable enough not acquiring another starting pitcher. And I don't blame Anthopoulos for not. The prices for starting pitchers this trade deadline was insane. You had multiple top prospects going for Yusei Kikuchi, who is pretty mid as a starter.
I like to
Is there,
think that like you don't know how long the Blue Jays were scouting the Astros player. You always assume that a team knows their players better than the other teams. And I'm not saying Joey Loperfido or Billy Wagner's son aren't going to be impact players when they aren't going to be good players, but uh, I do think that like the market was more this year at least, and we'll see what the I'm really interested to see what the Dodgers gave for Jack Flaherty. That's going to be uh, I mean I would say he was the most coveted starter who probably was moved besides Garrett Crochet. But you saw the return for Eric Fetty, who he's been really good this year. And I think I would say he's been better than Kikuchi, and the return was like not nearly the same, in my opinion. So, I mean, I think with the Astros, the one that really surprised me was Trevor Rogers to the Marlins, and they got Kyle Stowers, who I don't know what his power tool is, but I know it's like at least 55. I mean, he's going to be a legit hitter one day. And Connor Norby, and you're like, well, the Orioles have a wealth of prospects to deal from, but you're like, but wait, they just got Trevor Rogers. I mean, that's a package I would have expected for Crochet. Maybe plus or minus, swap in like Houston Kershaw or somebody. But um, it was a weird market this year for starters, and I think the Astros trade definitely flipped it on its side. But the thing with Crochet, which confuses me, is that if we didn't trade for him, which it looks like we didn't, it it all lined up. That's what I don't get. Alex Anthopoulos is somebody who takes advantage of situations. We talk about this all the time, you and me. We didn't need a catcher going into the 2023 season. Like we had Travis d'Arnaud, we had not the greatest depth, but we had other catchers in the system that were major league ready. But we saw that the Athletics were selling Sean Murphy, or willing to trade Sean Murphy, and we took advantage. Garrett Crochet, he said before this deadline, "Hey, I'm not going to pitch in the postseason unless I get an extension," and that probably reduced his market by a lot. That took out so many teams who were like, "Well, we can't do that. We don't like his projections. We need him for this year and next, but we don't want to commit beyond that." So the Braves are a team that shows that we're willing to take the risk and give a young player an extension. Crochet's what, like 25, 26? Like he's still a really young dude. And also, we have a lefty who's going to be a free agent next year. Who I'm sorry, like I just don't know if we're going to bring him back. He's just doesn't really fit the profile of a guy that we want to sign long term. I mean, and again, like you said with Anthopoulos, he's not sentimental when it comes to long term deals. He wouldn't budge for Swanson. That worked out. He wouldn't budge for Freeman. That it is what it is. I just don't know if we're gonna be able to see eye to eye with Freed. And it seemed like Crochet would have fit in nicely. And also too, in a year where, oh my God, this season, it feels like a lost season. Our team's really struggling. We could have gone to postseason with Chris Sale, Max Fried, Renato Lopez, Garrett Crochet, and Spencer Spolenbach. And that, you know what? I don't care how bad our offense is. I like our odds with those five pitchers um, going into the postseason. It felt like it made too much sense for us to not do anything about it. And maybe the White Sox asking price was still too high, all things considered, but it felt like a missed opportunity in my mind.
I have a little bit of a different perspective on Crochet. I He leads MLB in WAR right now. He's been exceptional, but he has never started a game in the major leagues prior to this year. He has had Tommy John. He missed 2022, missed most of 2023. Uh, he has kind of the Chris Sale light tag
The
to
the
him,
the, the exact Chris Sale, like, but think
where it's
about
like, okay, he's been excellent. The Braves would need to trade a lot to get him. And we don't one, he's never pitched in the postseason, so this would be a postseason debut. Two, or maybe 2020, but he hasn't he's basically doubled his career innings at this point. Uh and that's just a lot of unproven for me to be willing to part ways with um you know basically three or four of your top 10 prospects in an already weak farm system. But I do agree that this would have been the time for Anthopoulos to swoop in because he's given so many contract extensions. He's the guy who is not shy when it comes to that. And if Crochet is for real, which I think at this point he's probably more real than not, the big concern would just be the injuries. That would be something to take advantage of. But yeah, I can understand where Anthopoulos is looking and he's been really good for this one season, but man, those injuries are scary. And I don't know if it's worth parting ways with, AJ Smith-Shawver, Hurston Waldrep, Drake Baldwin, Nacho Alvarez, and who knows.
I see your point. My phone's about to die, so I'm just gonna uh, respond to what you said and try to leave it there. But I know what you're saying, and I understand injury concerns. My whole thing is like, and this I hate saying this because we're talking about people here, we're talking about people with lives, and but he already had his Tommy John. I know also Strider already has Tommy John too, and kind of like it seems like again diminishing returns. But I still feel like, let's say we trade for him, then we extend him we give him like a 6 year extension, runs through 2030. I still feel like we could have signed him for under market value, especially we could have used lack of track record to our advantage there. So I'm like right under 285, very loud. But I feel even with those risks, we could have used some of those to our advantage and still signed him for under market rate and had a potential ace starter for the next 6 seasons for way below mark for the same price that we're paying like Charlie Morton right now, with also giving up top prospects. Which with prospects like you never know. I mean, it's such a mystery box sometimes, and I think Alex Anthopoulos knows more than anybody that like you'd rather have like the sure thing. Like say what you want about his extensions, but most of them he signed after the player has proven that they can hit, they can field, they can pitch at the major league level. And I would rather Garrett Crochet, even with all concern, because he's been able to prove himself this year, than a guy like, you know, AJ Smith-Shawver, who largely hasn't yet.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Well, that has been our trade deadline review. I definitely thought we were going to have at least one or two more to cover. We will be back at some point to hopefully talk about the Braves' 7 or 14 or even 21 game winning streak where they go on a tear and overturn or override the Phillies for first place. But until then, thank you for watching and make sure you subscribe and follow us on all accounts. Bye.